So Sonic Battle's relevant again, I guess. That's kind of cool, right? I remember liking that game when I grew up because it had Shadow the Hedgehog in it and a narrative that was Sonic Adventure adjacent. I thought that was really cool how it wasn't just like Sonic Advance where it was just like classic Sonic, you know, you're doing levels and, you know, doing your platformer thing. I liked Sonic growing up because it was like that era of, you know, those anthropomorphic characters, this funny looking shit, like having like serious storylines, and like I bought it completely. I was like hooked onto the drama, and I thought it was really cool how they like finally replicated that on like one of the actual like portable games, because you know, most of the portable Sonic games I played weren't like that. It was just like a, you know, Mario game or something, and that's not really why I liked Sonic. I was there for the surprising narrative sauce. And Sonic Battle had that, but it also had monotonous gameplay up the ass. You know, it's very repetitive. It's a fighting game, party 3D arena fighter on the Game Boy Advance. Crazy. And maybe not. I don't know how hard it was to pull that off. It looks crazy to me. Anyone, really. I mean, you look at Sonic Battle, and it visually looks very impressive, but you actually play it, and it's kind of disappointing. They have you do the same fights over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. Like, you'll fight a guy, and the goal would be to beat them like 5 times, and then you'll fight them again, and the goal will be like beat them 10 times, and instead of their AI being smarter, I think they just have them do more damage, which is unfortunate. Because there's a surprising amount of minutia to learn. Like, playing the game well, like learning and getting on that level is satisfying. The game doesn't really facilitate that by throwing worthy opponents at you. They kind of just do that shit where they do more damage, or the times they throw like 3 guys for you to fight at once are like decently challenging in a good way. Like, it feels like, you know, even if they're not super intelligent, just like the shit you're having to deal with, like, that's stimulating. Most of the game's not like that, though. They have you fight like fucking the gray gammas over and over over and over and over again, or, you know, the fake emeralds. Yeah, it's redundant, it's repetitive, it's, you know, similes for that word. But, you know, I still played it because it was satisfying enough, and it only took like 8 hours, right? That's what my clear time says, I think. So, you know, not bad. This could have gone on for days, and it didn't. Like, I would like log on, play for like 1 session, and do like a chapter a session. So like that's not too bad, you know? This could have been a lot worse, but it could have also been a lot better. But anyway, everyone knows this. Everyone knows Sonic Battle is, like, redundant, right? That's, like, what we know about it, mostly, yeah? And it's where we get, like, a lot of our classic Sonic flash animation sprite animations from, you know, like, this cool kicks and shit you saw in, like, Mario Bros. Z. Like, they're all from this game, pretty much. They took the style from Sonic Advance and just have them do a lot of cool, like, martial arts and shit. It's a really good-looking game. But, are we done talking about the game? Yeah, I lost my train of thought. I wanted to compliment the game in that it has, like, a real-ass Sonic narrative. Like, that's why you stick with it, besides the fact that it's, you know, base satisfying hitting things. So, it's fun enough, and the reward is a pretty good Sonic story. So, that's cool. Let's talk about that. I mean, like, there's honestly not too much to say, actually. I guess that's kind of like Sonic Adventure 2, where, you know, that game doesn't have much going on, seemingly, but there's, like, a lot of good character moments, and the ending is insane. That's pretty much the exact same thing that happens here. So this really is, like, Sonic Adventure on the Game Boy. Like, that's really cool. Like, yeah, so you play through, like, the first 5 or whatever stories, just like hanging out with the GIZOID, you know, Emerald. He's kind of like your OC character who gets to hang out with the Sonic characters, except not really, because he's not you. He's, it's, theys. I forget if they gender the damn thing. They call it, like, many things. A baby, even. Amy refers to it as their child, Sonic and Amy's, which is very funny. Kind of like, a comedic extreme to her wanting to hook up with Sonic. She like rationalizes it, like she gets herself thinking like, oh, Sonic must be training for like husbandry by having a kid, like a kid robot to play pretend with, to get ready for the real thing. She's really funny in this game, in that she's insane like that. Very entertaining. That's why we really like Amy Rose, right? Because she's crazy, right? I mean, obviously there's a fine line to that. I played a fan retranslation of Sonic Battle, where, you know, the one by Wendy, a famous Sonic word person. Apparently Amy talks a little too crazy in the original, not original, like the English localization, so like, I guess we cleaned that up a bit. I don't know, I haven't read the original in a while. The original, the American one. That makes sense to me. I remember they reworded a lot of stuff in those English localizations. I mean, they still do. Like, the English to Japanese versions of the Sonic stories are very slightly different. I remember in Shadow the Hedgehog, in the pure dark ending, Shadow says something like, "Yes, this is for you, Professor. I'm gonna punish mankind." He says that in the Japanese version. But in the English version, they have him say, like, this is for, like, justice to mankind or something. Which is a more fucked up and cool, psychotic way of... Like, I prefer the English localization in that regard, that Shadow the Hedgehog moment. But, Amy Rose? I'm talking about Amy Rose? Maybe they went too far in the English one. I'm gonna trust that, because all I've ever heard about Sonic Battle, besides the fact that it has a pretty good story, is that Amy sounds out of character to most people. Which I'm willing to believe. Anyway, yeah, play the Wendy version, where she's just kind of funny, and you can, like, roll with her being crazy, because it you know, it doesn't sound too far off from how she acted in Sonic Heroes, where she was like, "Get ready for our honeymoon!" And, you know, she beat the shit out of Sonic to fucking, you know, there's no getting out of marrying me. You know, it's like this game really feels like it takes place within that Sonic Heroes kind of time frame. Even has all the same voice actors, I think. Or similar voice actors anyway. Everyone's giving like a very similar kind of inflection to how they sounded in Sonic Heroes. So I think it came out around then. This was also when like that era of Sonic voice actors were like at their best, I think. So like, damn, that's another cool thing about Sonic Battle. Like, the voice acting is really good. You know, the grunts and stuff the characters do. It's just like top notch. It doesn't sound like anything weird, like, you know, the kind of shit you had in Sonic Adventure 1 of like Sonic going like woohoo awkwardly, or like, oh no, like it just sounds good and like well timed and satisfying, and it's fucking great, you know, straight out of Sonic Heroes. And that was like the end of an era, because that was the end of the era, because then we got all new voice actors, and it started over where it sucked for like a couple years, and then by like Sonic Unleashed it was finally good. Maybe some of the Riders games sounds pretty good too. I've never given those the time of day. But yeah, Jason Griffith, he's finally good in fucking Unleashed, and then in Black Knight, the cast is finally good, and then they get rid of him. You know, the whole thing starts over. The cycle of video games and life. I'm just talking about Sonic shit. What about Sonic Battle? Fuck. Yeah. Okay. Back to Sonic Battle. I'm just telling you about Sonic shit now. So, you do like 5 stories of just like ideal Sonic characterization stuff. You know, the characters, they're weirdly into combat in this game. You know, Sonic's usually about like running and stuff, but he's pretty shonen adjacent a property. So they're really just into combat in this game. Not like, you know, no, we're not doing any loop-de-loops or exercising. Like, the thing the Sonic characters love to do in this game, they all unite over, is just like beating the shit out of each other. Which, yeah, sure, whatever. You just kind of accept it. Sonic is shonen adjacent. So yeah, you do that for a couple stories, and it's great. The characters are very in character, and they you know, all the interactions make sense, and they're entertaining. And you have like the lingering intrigue of the robot that they're building. That this thing's like a weapon, and it's like dangerous, and we shouldn't be hanging out with it. But like, what if we did though? You know, like, you know, it seemingly has a soul, so why not, you know, cultivate it? Like, you know, it doesn't, you know, it's like the nature-nurture thing. Like, Sonic is just like, like, he's just a dude. He's not really thinking about it too hard. Or, like, he is. He seemingly acts like he doesn't. But, like, Sonic has a really good scene with Shadow in his story, where Shadow's like, again, we should just kill this thing. Why are we hanging out with it? And Sonic's like, because it clearly has a soul, and we're hanging out with it. Because I've seen that it's like a person, and I like it. Emerald's cool. And Shadow's like, okay, well, what if I just destroyed it anyway? And like, because it's dangerous. Like, what would you think about that, Sonic the Hedgehog? And Sonic very coolly said, I don't think you could. You're welcome to try. You both have souls. And like, he acknowledges Shadow's beef with the robot, but he's like, go ahead. You know, he trusts that like Emerald's good enough to take care of himself at that point very coolly. And he also trusts that Shadow wouldn't do it, because, like, this is, like, it's weird. You kind of just have to accept that this is, like, a version of Shadow that did SA2, somehow survived and got his memories back, but he still, like, got, like, you know, lingering... You know, he had his SA2 character arc, and he has his memories back and stuff, but he's still, like, a weapon of war, and he acknowledges that and stuff. It's strange. The shit with Shadow in this game. I haven't really looked into it, but you really get the vibe that this is like an alternate universe Shadow the Hedgehog, or it's a follow-up to like a game that came after Sonic Heroes that wasn't Shadow the Hedgehog. Like, it was a different game that like reintroduced Shadow, but not that one. Because like, I don't think these two games can both exist, because it's kind of redundant, where Shadow he talks about similar things. And I guess that's inevitable with, like, characters like this, where, you know, they might just prattle off their tropes over and over again, but... I'm, like, with the way this is so separate, I'm willing to believe this game was written without the complete scope of, like, you know, Shadow the Hedgehog in mind. I'm not gonna bother looking it up. I gotta take a drink, I'm talking too much. So yeah, the Shadow story is really fucking good. You finally get like the apex, or the payoff of like all of the intrigue where, you know, we just learn the ultimate truth of the robot, where, you know, it can have a soul, like Shadow, you know, a fellow weapon of war, allowed to exist. Through some convenient key code, or keyword that, like, you know, the GIZOID, Gerald Robotnik didn't make it. Which is good. It would have been pretty... I remember Sonic Rivals, I think, just made up more shit for Gerald Robotnik to do. And at some point it just gets ridiculous, right? Like, fucking... Shadow the Hedgehog was already pushing it with its fucking, like, aliens thing. So if they also said that he made the GIZOID alongside, like, the Sonic Rivals shit, like, yeah, it would just be too much. So I'm glad he just, like, discovered this thing. And I like the lore that they introduced, that, like, he used it as collateral. Like, they kind of retcon it into the context of SA2, where, like, oh, I was able to keep doing my research back in SA2 because I gave them this robot I found. And I didn't want to do it because it was a weapon of war, and I know it, like, absorbed combat data and shit, and that was really dangerous. But he had no choice, because, you know, he wanted to do his research for, like, Maria and stuff, and none of it paid off. You know, again, really delicious tragedy, that whole thing. None of the introductions in this game feel too retcon-y. Much classier. I like these ones more than, like, a lot of the ones in Shadow the Hedgehog. I'm a Shadow the Hedgehog enjoyer, but yeah, that game's a little much, where, fucking Shadow's part alien, and he made the Eclipse Cannon to, like, defend the world from aliens, and not just, like, an inherent weapon for the government, or whatever the hell was going. It just gets to be a bit much when you start adding all these extra things to the SA2 Gerald Robotnik story. Everyone knows this. It's very common knowledge, common takes. But yeah, Sonic Battle's valid. Anything else to say? Am I forgetting anything? The ending is the ultimate, like, tragedy. You'd totally be, like, willing to believe. We know now, just by living in the future, that Emerald didn't stick around as a character. But I don't know, like Cream the Rabbit, you'd be willing to buy it back in the day, I think. You know, in Sonic Advance 2, they introduced a new character, so why not, like, another robot guy? They keep doing it, like, every other game, seemingly. But, like, then they kill the guy. They have you kill the guy, which is, like, really fucking cool. Like, you spend the whole game he starts really awful, Emerald. And, you know, it's a classic, like, gameplay satisfaction thing. You equip more and more moves onto the guy, and you get attached through the story, through the gameplay. You're playing as this guy a lot of the game, and then they have you fight him, but not really your creation, unfortunately. It's kind of like another thing where the Sonic Battle gameplay, you wish it were better. The Emerald you fight at the end of the game, after he goes crazy, because, you know, Eggman does some shit to, like, override the be nice command they found, or whatever, to make Emerald a real boy, or whatever the fuck. Yeah, Emerald goes crazy, but his moveset is, like, this chaotic mishmash of just every possible move in the game. It's not what you had on him, which I suppose is maybe for the best. Because you could have, like, had some scenario where the player will, like, intentionally goes into the final battle with, like, a shitty moveset, so the final boss is, like, easy. And, that would be bad. So the possibility just doesn't exist. So you're not as attached in, like, that kind of a gameplay sense. It's not 100% your Emerald you're fighting, but that's still the guy you were playing as, so sure, whatever. We give it a pass. Anyway, yeah, the final fight with Emerald's cool as shit. I like how Shadow, like, fucking, like, the character dynamics are so on point in this fucking game. Like, you know, they have to, like, go to Eggman's base, but there's only, like, time to send one guy, and Shadow's like, yo, Sonic, you got this. You know, they just kind of, like, it's like a visual novel story thing, but they basically, like bro nod at each other, like, yeah, you got this one, right? Shadow has, like, AIDS in this game anyway. He's, like, really tired or something. He's sleeping, like, half the game. I guess, like, again, it's that weird shit where it's a pseudo follow-up to SA2, where he did fall to Earth, and it probably hurt a lot, and something happened after that where, like, he's not as powerful as he was, but we don't know what, because, like, this game, you know, it comes after Heroes, seemingly, but, like, it doesn't sound like it follows Shadow the Hedgehog, because he's completely normal by the end of that game. He doesn't have, like, he doesn't need to hold on to a Chaos Emerald for, like, life support like he does in this game. So at the end of Sonic Battle, he gives up his Emerald to Emerald, because he's like, okay, I buy it. You're a real boy. You can have the Emerald. I don't need it anymore anyway, because, like, I was really holding on to it. You know, yeah, for the life support, but for, like, the sentiment of, like, you know, thinking about my sister Maria or whatever, because, you know, Chaos Emeralds remind me of the whole... You know, the whole, like, Space Colony Arc situation, you know? You get that. So, Shadow's... It's so fucking cool. He's, like, the most powerful guy, but only sometimes. It's so convenient for, like, the shonen storyline thing. They can't have Shadow, like, solve every problem, because in this game he has a good enough justification. He's got, like, chaos cancer. Or he's just really tired. I buy it completely. So, yeah. Sonic having to fight Emerald at the end is it's just fucking cinema, dude. It's cinnamon. It's like Emerald's going out of control, and they send his dad, you know, the guy who, like, introduced him into the group, to, like, deliver him death, cause, like, he's like, he hijacked, like, Eggman shoots. It's so cool, the ending. Like, Eggman is like, okay, so this robot, like, accepts things that are more powerful than it as, like, masters and stuff. And it's not accepting me, it's accepted all of Sonic's friends and stuff, and has, like, a will of its own, seemingly, so it's not gonna just accept anyone anymore unless it's, like, really powerful. So he shoots, like, just a laser into nothing, and he's like, look, that's really powerful, right? It just blew up stars and shit. That's, like, that's really more powerful than anyone you've ever met in your life, right, Emerald? And his code, like, takes over, like, yes, that is true. His, like, innate, like, prerogative of, like, just being a robot that absorbs data and shit, like, overrides whatever niceties he's, like, you know, been cultivated with through, like, hanging out with Sonic and stuff, which is, like, damn, that makes sense. So his, like, true nature is, like, reawakening, and we've got to put him down. Like, the characters acknowledge, like, okay, we might be able to stop this if we just, like, actually kill the guy. And then they do. They have to put him down, and it's, like, raw as hell. Like, like, usually when you go into fights as Sonic, you know, you hear a voice line of good old Ryan Drummond going like, "Time to party," or some shit like that. But he doesn't say anything going into the Emerald fight, because there's nothing fun about this. Although I think when you beat the fight, he probably still goes like, "Yeah!" But like when you open the fight, he doesn't say anything, which is a very deliberate thing, obviously. Like, duh, that's totally what they were going for. I hope I'm misremembering about him, like, losing his voice line for the end of the fight. That would be quite the fuck up, but it's, you know, it's not the end of the world. At least they got the beginning of the fight, right? So yeah. Apparently the fight happens within like 30 seconds too, where like, like perfect weapon endgame Emerald's like, okay, so I'm gonna fire this shoop-de-whoop at the Earth in like 30 seconds. And then the fight starts, and you know, it takes however long it takes for you to beat him, but you can like internalize that like, damn, did that fight happen like within the span of like 30 seconds within like the actual continuity? That is so fucking raw. Like Sonic really pulled out the big guns. You, the player, really pulled out the big guns. And you know, I buy it, because like every time you fight Sonic in the game, it never really feels like that kind of corny shit where like you really beat him. Like he's always saying like, oh, I was just playing. And you know, you kind of like for a lot of the game, you're kind of just like rolling your head like, okay, yeah, sure, Sonic, I just kicked the shit out of you, and you're saying you were going easy on me. But like, after seeing this like end of the game fight where like you see like you as Sonic like beat the shit out of this like perfect weapon, like, oh, he totally was. He was fucking around the whole game. That is so cool. I like how this game makes Sonic come off like really cool in that aloof way, but he's not like an aloof asshole. Like he's really smart, like in a cool way. Like, just great stuff. All the characters are fucking great in this game. Like, everyone's on point except Gamma. I don't know what the fuck Gamma's doing in the game. It's not even really Gamma. I wonder if that's just more so where they were like, okay, we've got like a fighting game, we want to fill out the roster, but we can't just throw in a random robot that wouldn't... I mean, they totally could have, actually. They could have just thrown in a new Eggman robot and no one would have cared. Actually, maybe that would have been redundant, because we already have Emerald. So... they throw in a thing that looks like Gamma for like nostalgia, and there's a really weak justification. It actually makes perfect sense. It's literally just recycled hardware, where I think Rouge is like, you know, Queen Exposition in this game. It was like she was in SA2, right, where she read like Gerald Robotnik's diary. In the last story, like, yeah, she's the one giving all the information in this fucking game. Because, you know, they have that justification, you know, she's like a presidential agent for the government and shit. She knows shit. She knows things, whatever. So, Gamma is, yeah, it's not Gamma. It's just like the shell. Eggman's recycling it and using it, for muscle. And it has like this new motivation of like wanting to, you know, beat up Emerald, because it stole the emerald that was meant for, it. And you know, you kind of just run into it over and over again, like a lot of things in the game, throughout the narrative. Because, like, you know, the narrative of this game is really tight, but, like, the connective tissue has you fight a lot of, like, those robots and stuff, which is redundant. But it makes sense, because, like, I guess they didn't want to have the characters... They thought it would be ridiculous to have them fight each other over and over and over and over again. And, you know, Eggman's the villain, so they have you fight Eggman-adjacent bad guys. But unfortunately, the only two are the Gamma Recolors and the Phi robots. So, I don't know, maybe it would have worked out if, like, there were a couple variants. Maybe if they brought back the whole Gamma family and had them have slightly different movesets as recycled hardware. You know, then I'd be more charitable to it. But, like, the gameplay shit of it being so redundant, having you fight Gamma over and over again. I keep saying over and over again, but it's as redundant as this game. Maybe that would have been fine. Or if at least if they were like a different color or something. It just kind of comes off lame. But, you know, ultimately, the high points of Sonic Battle are high enough where, like, I give that a pass, you know, having to fight, you know, Gamma again. That's just kind of whatever. Like, The big moments, yeah, I literally just said, I'm gonna be redundant. Yeah, the big moments are big enough where I don't care that the plot nugget of reintroducing Gamma for the characters to act confused and then be like, oh, it's not actually Gamma, it's just like some other guy, some other robot, it doesn't matter. That is really lame. But I don't care. Because our high points are high enough. It's also really weird how they refer to Gamma by name. Like, they see the robot, and they're like, oh, hey, is that robot? Like, Gamma? Like, oh, hey, what's up? And, you know, in SA1, people like that story, because it has nothing to do with the others. It's like a, you know, it's like, you know, the butterfly narrative of SA1. It's like a satisfying thing to see all the narratives crisscross and stuff, but then it's also cool to see one that has, like, nothing to do with any of them. And that's why people like Gamma, where it's, like, weirdly, like, the most profound in the game. And he has, like, no one learns his name in that game. Like, he just, like, does his thing and kills himself, and it's, like, really fucking cool and powerful. And suddenly the characters, like, talk as if they know him. And, you know, that comes off, like, more of that weird, like, not... More of that weird writing this game has, where, like, the people writing it don't feel like they're, like, taking everything that's actually been established into account. Like, the characters should not be talking to this guy as if they know him. They should recognize it, but yeah, that should be the end of it. But they can't do that because they want to make it a fighting game character, and that wouldn't be satisfying. It was fucked. The whole thing was fucked. Like, Gamma being in the game. It was like a ditch they dug, and they had to do it. The characters need to, like... There needs to be something. The characters can't just be like, oh, a robot, let's kill it. Like, oy. Cool thing is that... yeah, the characters think it's Gamma, but then you also have, like, the fun nugget of Rouge going, like, that kind of looks like Omega from Sonic Heroes, and it's like, yeah, she would make that connection, because, like, Omega is, like, the, successor to, like, the Gammas, or whatever the fuck, so that was cool. Seeing Rouge say that, like, that was a fun bit of, fan service, logical continuity. Yeah, there's a lot of that in this game. And then there isn't, with stuff like the Gamma shit I'm lamenting. It doesn't even really matter. I guess it does with, you know, I keep saying you fight this guy enough for it to be a detriment to the game. Whatever. I am sounding so repetitive right now. But yeah, Sonic Battle's cool, and, you know, like, watching that Shadow cartoon, my initial thought was like, oh, they're doing some retconny shit where they're weaseling in some fan service. From like 20 years ago to like get us old fans pogging out, because that's like all they do with like Sonic shit. Like, you know, whoa, this waterfall reminds me of the Mystic Ruins, you know, that dumbass shit from Sonic Frontiers. But in this game, in one of the Gerald Diaries, they already make the connection that the GIZOID existed during SA2. So, not bad actually. Not a bad pull. Like, not a complete ridiculous ass pull of a deep cut. I thought it was. We are rambling. But yes, Sonic Battle? Should you play it? Well, I'm hoping if you've somehow found this internet video and listened to it, like, you're just like another me, and you already know all this. And you're just like, yeah, I like hearing other people fucking say what I'm fucking thinking. Yeah, man. Yeah, because, like, I don't really see anyone being able to play Sonic Battle. It's just, like, too repetitive and not actually engaging. It's a weird fucking game. It is so cumbersome to, like, learn how to get good at it, and it feels weird moving around this 3D map and trying to, like, align yourself with, like, the shadows of the characters you're trying to punch. And it's just, like, it's a tough sell. I can't really see anyone willing to do it these days. Like, people did it back in the day because it was a new Sonic game that came out and people were going to play it. But it's not new anymore. It's not relevant. I mean, it's relevant because of the cartoon, but, like, people aren't going to go back to it unless, like, they already played it before. And if they do give it a shot, they're going to play it for, like, 5 minutes and be like, okay, this is, like, kind of boring. And they're going to drop it because they don't have, like, the commitment of, like, buying it for their Game Boy Advance 20 years ago or whatever. So, the only people who are going to enjoy Sonic Battle are those who remain, or I guess you could, like, look up a long play and just, like, read up the story. But like, it's not the same without playing it, right? Like you're not a. The people who are attached to Emerald and think Gemerald is cool, cause he's like Gemerald's really cool, by the way. Like the new robot they introduced in like Advance 3, he's cool because he's not Emerald. Like Emerald is still definitively dead. Like Gemerald's seemingly like a zero equivalent to the GIZOIDs, where it's like a new version based on that old version. But Emerald's like, he didn't come back like Shadow did. He's just dead, like Gamma, and that's like really powerful. You know, like having like a staying power thing like that in your series, like, you know, it would feel cheap. People don't like the Shadow comeback because like it lessens SA2's ending, where it feels really powerful that he died. And you know, I like Shadow and I'm okay with him sticking around, but like, you can't if you do that with like every character in your fucking lineup, the narratives will lose their teeth and their weight, and it'll be awful. So it's really cool that Emerald is still dead, but like the idea of him lives on in general. But he's not coming back because we'll never have a world without war. You know, the characters lament after, or they yearn after killing him. Like, do you think if we ever had a world where there would be no fighting and none of, like, if Emerald existed in a world where there was no evil data to absorb and conflict or anything, do you think we'd get to see him again? In Sonic, in like complete fucking lie, he says like, yeah, but like that's like an idealistic thing. I guess he would believe that maybe that is possible, but it would never happen. Like Shadow the Hedgehog, I'm not 100% on like the ending. There's this nugget where, you know, Gerald Robotnik, imbued within Emerald, the Be a Real Boy code, where if you know, say the keyword, he'll be able to like be a real boy and like override whatever like data absorbing like directives. Like, I'm rambling because I'm not breathing. Okay, so like Emerald's goal, he was built to like absorb data and stuff, but like if he has all the emeralds and you say the code word, he can like make decisions for himself. Unless you like override that with like just a crazy amount of power like Eggman does. So like Shadow no. It went like this, where you think Emerald's free, but then he isn't. And after Sonic beats him, he like blows up because like there's revealed to be like a self-destruct thing in him where like I don't know what triggered it, but like at some point, like I don't know why it didn't happen before. Like there was some kind of like, if there's X amount of power going on within Emerald, it will like just self-destruct. I don't know why that didn't happen before the Sonic fight, but I think what's trying to be said is that like even though Gerald Robotnik put like the Be a Real Boy code within Emerald, he also put in a suicide button because like he knew it wouldn't work ultimately, like as like a just in case. But that just in case just proves it. Like he knew deep down like, okay, yeah, this will never actually work, but I can be hopeful. And like Shadow says like, bring hope to humanity. I hate this. And that's just like really fucking cool. I probably really butchered trying to explain that, but like that's like really powerful where like, you know, the good Gerald Robotnik, like he wanted Emerald to be free, this GIZOID thing that he saw the potential for, but he like knew deep down that it wouldn't work out. So like he put in like a fucking kill switch where, you know, it could be resolved. The only way he saw it fit, like the only way it probably could be solved, because like it's a weapon of war. You know, this shit's just, it's inevitable, man. Like, he as a jaded human, like, saw that as the reality, and that's what fucking happened. It's a really good tragedy. And, you know, we get Shadow to, like, look at that and be like, what about me? Where do I go from here? I mean, he doesn't actually say any of that. Like, I think that's the last time we see Shadow in Sonic Battle. Like, he scoffs at that notion and just, like, walks off screen. And we're just left to think, like, Shadow, what are you gonna take from that information? Because, like, are you gonna end up like fucking Emerald? I'm pretty sure Shadow doesn't have like a kill switch in it. He's like, it's up to him to decide like where he's going. He doesn't have any inhibitors outside of like himself. Ramble. I'm coming off very disjointed. I'm no video essayist. I'm just like prattling out like my incoherent thoughts that I thought were cool about Sonic Battle, because like it's not a good game, but like I'm still thinking about it. It has like a lot of stuff like that where it's like really charming and, you know, good Sonic stuff, like the simple fun of these cartoon characters hanging out, and then that surprisingly weighty shit. Like this is like what I loved about Sonic growing up, and like playing it now, I was still able to appreciate that, and I was, you know, that really pleases me. You know, this shit, like, it didn't go bad when I grew up. Like, it still has the sauce. So, yeah, Sonic Battle. Play it or don't play it. I just wanted to talk about it.